Good afternoon, it's Nicholas from Gandor Gaming, and as of today, we got our first brand new Genesis point adjustment. So, if you don't know, Genesis is the brand new Yu-Gi-Oh format that is sweeping the community right now. If you don't know, Genesis is a Konami TCG new format that they're very pushing right now, and it looks like we're getting a brand new. I don't want. It's not a ban list because no card in the game is banned. However, it's a new point adjustment. So if you don't know, TCG or Genesis, this is TCG Genesis, is a new format where there's no links, there's no pendulums, and all the strongest cards in the game are based on point system. So every card is legal. However, every card that is like really broken or is on the ban list has a point system allowing you to only play certain many copy of cards. For example, Chicken Game. Chicken Game had 0 points and now it's at 7 points, meaning you can only have a total of 100 in your deck. Depending on what tournament they throw, there could be 100 points allowed per deck, 200 points per allowed per deck, 50 points per deck, 0 points per deck. There's a lot of ways to be building this, which is really exciting. And they have their first point balance. So the community has looked at the new format and they already started like trying to break it as much as possible because that's what Yu-Gi-Oh players do. And yeah, we got some brand new changes to hopefully fix that. So first things first, Chicken Game went from 0 points to 7 points. This is a big deal because I think there's a lot of like draw FTKs going on, like with Exodia and things like that. Basically, they're like, hey, look, I can just, because all these draw spells are basically at 0 points, you can just play like infinite amount of them and just draw your entire deck and then just like Exodia your opponent. And because of that, they are balancing it out. So Chicken Game went from 0 to 7. Dark World Dealings went from 0 to 5. Card Demise went from 0 to 1. So you can't play it with Mystic Mind, which is another deck that people are running around with because Mystic Mind is 100 points. So you can't play any other card with Mystic Mind, basically. It's like the one or nothing. And they're playing 3 copies of Demise because Demise was at 0. But luckily it's at 1 now, so you can't play it in the deck. D-Shifter went from 5 to 10. Makes sense. It's a floodgate. It's also a very powerful hand trap, so that makes sense. Dominus Spiral is really interesting because this is a brand new card that we literally haven't even got yet. Well, technically we did. So this week we get, actually tomorrow, we do get the release of the brand new Dimension set. So this card comes out in that set, and they're already saying, hey, look, we know new sets are coming, and we're already balancing new cards in that set. So this card is already rated as a 10, which is really, really strong. Dragon Tail, their monster Arphelion went from 10 to 20. Evil Swarm Ouroboros went to 67 from 0, which makes sense because, Ryziel is trying to loop this guy. Foolish Burial Goods went from 0 to 3. I actually have no idea what this is for. Foolish Burial Goods, I dumps a spell or trap card. Maybe for like Naturia players. I have no idea. Into the Void went from 1 to 3. The Canine, Noji went to 0 to 10. Joko went from 0 to 13. Dragon Tail Ketu went from 0 to 20. Left Arm Offering went from 0 to 7. Light Swarm Dragonling went from 0 to 10. I'm not actually sure why that's on here. Probably some like dragon shenanigans because every dragon card's legal now. They're probably like, look, this card can't be at 0 because there's some broken ass dragon cards that are at like 1 or 2 points or at 0 points, and this being with that is a problem. We have some new Lyralist cards on here because I think all the Lyralists were at 0, so they had to hit them. Lyralist Berry Canary went from 0 to 5. Lyralist Bird Call went from 0 to 20. Mathmech Sigma went from 0 to 7. Universe went from 0 to 3. Metaverse went from 0 to 3. Hope Harbinger went from 10 to 20. Who the hell is playing Hope Harbinger? Number 60, the Durgaris, the Timeless, went from 0 to 10. So that's the rank 4 that like draws you 2 or reborns or double. It makes your attack double. Number 67, Paradise Smasher went from 0 to 67. Utopic Draco Future went from 0 to 20. Good thing we're not playing that in Punk anymore, so there you go there. If it was, it's a one-of anyway. Number Evals went from 0 to 70. I don't even know what that card is. Ohm the Manifested Mikanko went from 0 to 33. I guess a Mikanko had to get hit. Mikankos are a really powerful deck, by the way. They're rituals, and their whole gimmick is to craft 0 attack ritual monsters or just main deck monsters into your opponent's monsters, and then they take the damage instead. So I can see that in this format being actually quite strong. Drama Duo and Trio went from 0 to 2 and 3. I think this is, again, Mystic Mine reasons, so now you can't play these cards in Mystic Mine. Plan Fighter, same thing, 0 to 3. Prohibition, 0 to 100. Pseudo Space, 0 to 3. Psy Blocker, 0 to 61. What the hell is Psy Blocker? I actually forgot what this card is. I'm going to look it up real quick, just because I am a psychic main, so I should know what this is. Psy Blocker. What the hell do you do? Psy Blocker. Once per turn, you can declare one card name. Cards with that name and their effects can't be used until the end of your opponent's next turn. There's probably some like weird gimmick where you look at your opponent's hand and you just call every card in your hand. Might be a thing, but if anything, it's 61 now, so it's unplayable. Sales band 0 to 100. Star, Seraph, Spectre, and Sovereignty are what to 0 to 5 each. That's kind of steep. Or is there like Herald players? Like who else plays the Star Seraphs? The only thing I can think of is literally Herald, so I'm not really sure there. Transaction rollback went from 0 to 7. That's good because there's some really broken trap cards in the game you can't really copy now. Trapaholic also went from 0 to 7. And then Holly Sue went from 0 to 10, which makes Vanquish Soul a lot harder to play because now your main monster is 30 points in your deck. So, oof. All right, now let's talk about cards that actually lost costs. So it looks like the Mikanko Manifesto went from 33 to 0. So they increased one Mikanko and are lowering another Mikanko because they're like, we hit this Mikanko too hard, but the other Mikanko still needed a hit. Blackwing, the Snow Blast went from 5 to 0. Blackwing, the Zephyros, the Elite went from 15 to 13. I'm not actually sure what that changes. Black Dragon went from 40 to 33. Droll and Lockbird went from 7 to 5. As much as I hate Droll and Lockbird in normal format, I actually think that Droll and Lockbird is actually more fair in this format, just due to the fact that you are less likely to play hand traps in this format at all. So Droll, I actually am okay with in this format. The problem with Droll to me is when it's backed up with like other really powerful hand traps and board breakers. So I don't know. I still hate this card with a passion of God. I always want this card demise. However, in a format where every card is legal, I feel like Droll is fine as much as I hate it. So we'll just have to see. Gladiator Rejection went from 20 to 15. Harpy's Feather Duster went from 33 to 30. Heavy Storm went from 25 to 20 because we need some back row removal people. Infinite Impermanence went from 15 to 13. I'm not actually sure what that changes. Monster Reborn went from 20 to 15. No one's playing that. Mold Chummy Meows went from 5 to 3. It's the worst Mold Charmy, so who cares? Premature Burial went from 27 to 25. What the fuck is Premature Burial? Let me Google this real quick. Premature Burial. Is this like the Monster Reborn? Is that what this is? Burial. Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh, it's the Equip Spell Burial. This card's been banned for so long, I kind of forgot about it because, wait, I just realized, is the Noble Knight Link 2, it's legal. I wonder how many points that card is. Interesting. And then finally, Return of the Dragon Lords went from 10 to 7. So, overall, pretty interesting list. I'm pretty happy with the results. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where this goes from here. Punk's not touched, so let's go. And yeah, that's all I got for this lovely, lovely new ban list. I should say ban list. No cards got banned in the making of this video. However, it is a point adjustment for the new Genesis format because of what people are saying. Now, I will say Dark Worlds probably still need to get a hit some more. That deck can just draw it to its heart's content. I know all the dangers have points, but I do think like that deck ripping cards out of your opponent's hand can be disgusting. So we'll just have to see. Anyway, hope you all enjoy. Don't think stupid. See you on the next one, and bye-bye.